Napoleon Bonaparte is one of the most well-known names in history. Even though most people know who he is, most people do not know the specifics about Napoleon's life or his military campaigns. Napoleon had many accomplishments, including turning an unstable republic into an empire that dominated the European continent. So how was he able to do this? Well, in this video, you are going to learn about the life story of Napoleon Bonaparte up to the end of the Third Coalition. We start our story on the Mediterranean island of Corsica in 1769, where young Napoleon Bonaparte has just been born. This year previously, the Italian kingdom of Genoa ceded Corsica to France, as Genoa was indebted to France after needing France's help against the Corsican rebellion. Napoleon's mother and father were both descended from Italian nobility, so Napoleon grew up moderately wealthy, which gave him more time to study compared to others. Napoleon's father was also a representative of Corsica to the court of King Louis XIV, which granted Napoleon a roller scholarship to a military academy in France. While he was at school, kids routinely picked on him for his accent, birthplace, short stature, mannerisms, and poor French. This led to Napoleon becoming reserved, spending a good amount of time reading. In 1784, at age 15, Napoleon was admitted to another school, the École Militaire in Paris, where he would train to become an artillery officer in a 2-year course. During his time there, Napoleon's father died of stomach cancer, cutting the family income, and forcing Napoleon to complete a 2-year course in 1 year. Napoleon did well during his education, excelling at math, doing well in geography, history, and literature. After graduating, Napoleon was assigned the 2nd Lieutenant of Artillery at the Lafayette Army Regiment, where he would be garrisoned at the two cities of Valence and Auxonne. While he was stationed at these two cities, he read many books about strategies and tactics. Napoleon also started reading works by Voltaire and Rousseau and began supporting the Jacobins, seeing the need for political change. However, between the years of 1786 and 1793, Napoleon took many absences of leave to return to his home island of Corsica, taking part in the island's three-way political turmoil between royalists, revolutionaries, and Corsican nationalists. Originally, Napoleon wanted to support Corsican resistance leader Pasquale Paoli, but their relationships soured, with Paoli eventually condemning Napoleon's entire family, forcing him to flee to France. When Napoleon returned to France, he was supported artillery commander of the French Republican forces. The previous commander had been wounded, and he was sent to retake the port of Toulon, which was under occupation by an Anglo-Spanish fleet. Napoleon quickly gathered more cannons and produced a plan to take over a hill fort. From there, they could aim the cannons at the city's harbor and force the Anglo-Spanish fleet to leave. Napoleon was wounded in combat during the siege, but his artillery assault was successful, leading to the Republican forces retaking the city of Toulon. Napoleon's key role in the victory started to gain Napoleon attention, notably from Augustin Robespierre, brother of Maximilien Robespierre, leading to Napoleon being promoted to commandant of the artillery in the French army of Italy. However, he wouldn't hold this position for long, as on July 27th, 1794, when Robespierre was ousted from power of France, Napoleon was also arrested by the new regime for his connection to Robespierre. Napoleon was later freed. However, he lost his position in the army. Napoleon was offered a new position in the Army of West after getting out of jail, which was currently fighting a counter-rebellion. But Napoleon pretended to get sick to get out of the job, thinking the post held no future for him. Napoleon would finally get his big break in October of 1795, when royalist forces broke out in a rebellion against the National Assembly. Paul Barras, a powerful political leader of France at the time, entrusted Napoleon as second in command of the army assigned to protect the National Assembly. Napoleon led brutal artillery fire on the rebels, with about 300 to 1,400 rebels dying in the battle. After putting down the rebels, the French government decided to promote Napoleon to commander-in-chief of the French army of Italy. During this period, Napoleon also got married to his wife, Josephine. 2 days after the marriage, Napoleon left up to join the French army of Italy, and he started what would be known as the First Italian Campaign. Napoleon's plan was to split the Kingdom of Sardinia from their Austrian allies and then deal with both countries separately. This plan started off to great success, Napoleon defeating Sardinia in 2 weeks. Napoleon then focused on Austria and he saw great successes. And at the end of the campaign, Napoleon only sat 100 miles from Vienna. Austria had no choice to surrender, giving the lowlands and northern Italy to French control. This campaign was a great success for Napoleon, bringing northern Italy to French control and winning millions of dollars in French pounds from all the looting he did. The most impressive fact of this campaign was how Napoleon's forces were outnumbered and poorly equipped to their enemies. However, despite this, he still saw great successes. When he was done with this great campaign, he was hailed as a hero by the people of France. With France still being at war with Britain, Napoleon decided it was a good idea. With France still being at war with the British Empire, Napoleon decided it was a good time to try to seize Egypt to threaten the British naval route to their Indian colonies. This campaign at first saw great success, with Napoleon taking the important city of Alexandria and much of the Nile area. However, Napoleon's victory streak started to run out, with him losing many battles in Egypt. Napoleon decided to leave his army behind and set sail for France. When he returned to France, Napoleon formed an alliance with two powerful politicians, Émile Joseph Saisse and Roger Ducos, with the two planning to plot and stage a coup against a very unpopular government. The coup took place on November 9th of 1799, with the three men becoming consuls of France. However, the constitution that Napoleon wrote pretty much gave him all the power. Bonaparte was able to appoint ministers, generals, civil servants, and appoint members to the Council of State. He also had significant sway over the choice of the members to the legislative assemblies. The new constitution was approved by plebiscite on February 7, 1800, with the official count being over 3 million in favor and 1,000 against. When Napoleon had taken control of France, the situation of the country was dire. A second coalition had declared war on France. However, Napoleon was going to turn the situation around. He commanded 24,000 troops and marched them across the Alps. Napoleon took the city of Milan, an important supply hub for the Austrians. This forced the Austrians to try to attack Napoleon and take the city back. Napoleon won the battle, with Austrian troops fleeing. With their border exposed, Austria signed an armistice with France securing their control over it. Their regiment, led by Jean Monroe, would later see great success against Austria, forcing Austria to sign for peace. The other nations in the coalition also signed peace, leading to Europe finally being at peace after decades of war. At the time of peace, Napoleon started to embark on many reforms. The economy was struggling, so Napoleon organized a new national bank, did currency reform, and improved taxation and welfare systems. Napoleon also sold the territory of Louisiana to the United States for $15 million, as it would be difficult to defend. Napoleon would also reform the legal system, forming the Napoleonic Code, which is today the basis for over half the world's constitutions. Napoleon would also spend his time fixing infrastructure, getting rid of corrupt officials, reforming education, and creating a new grandee army for him to command. Napoleon also brought back the Catholic Church in France, but this time it had a lot more power limitations. In 1804, Napoleon, wanting to secure his position as leader of France, decided to hold another plebiscite if he should become Emperor of France. The official result showed 3.5 million people voting yes, and around 2,000 people voting no. What resulted was Napoleon crowning himself, even though the Pope was supposed to crown European emperors. During this period, a third coalition decided to declare war on France, hoping to put Napoleon in his place. Napoleon knew that if he let Russian forces meet up with Austrian forces, it would be a massive headache for him. So his plan was to crush the Austrian armies before they were allowed to meet up with their Russian counterparts. The majority of Austrian forces were located at the fortress of Ulm. Napoleon led his army and outflanked the Austrian army, leading to the Battle of Ulm, where for just 2,000 casualties, Napoleon captured 60,000 Austrian soldiers. The French army would later then capture Vienna, gaining 100,000 muskets and 500 cannons. Napoleon would set up his forces at Austerlitz, where Russian and Austrian forces would attack Napoleon. What started then was the Battle of Austerlitz, also known as the Battle of the Three Emperors, as Napoleon, Alexander I, and Francis II all took part in the battle. The battle took place on December 2nd, 1805, and is considered Napoleon's greatest victory. It started with Napoleon luring the enemy forces into a weak right front to get them into a vulnerable position, with the Austro-Russian forces taking the heights to see what they saw in his advantage. Napoleon launched a defensive counterattack through the Prasen Heights, splitting enemy lines. When Russian forces tried to retreat over a frozen lake, Napoleon ordered artillery fire over the lake, causing many Russian forces to drown. The result was a catastrophic defeat for the coalition, with the Russian and Austrian forces suffering around 36,000 casualties, compared to the French 9,000. After this defeat, Austria for the third time was forced to sign peace with France. This time, Napoleon didn't let them off lightly, with Austria losing territories to French and their Bavarian allies. And also, Austria was forced to pay 40 million francs to France. After this battle, Napoleon started to consolidate his power over Europe. He put his brothers on the throne of Naples and Holland, and established the Confederation of the Rhine, a French puppet state. So this is where we end Napoleon's story, with the start of his military career, his rise to power, and the wars of the First, Second, and Third Coalitions explained. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.